Cale Jetson had a problem with saying no to trouble, especially when trouble came with curves or credits. On the grimy space station, Blood Spiral, with its constant funk of recycled air and cheaper booze, he was in his element. The bar's lighting flickered, casting everything in alternating shades of red and shadow. Cale nursed his fourth drink of the night, something that tasted like gasoline filtered through an alien's digestive tract. Perfect. "Another round for the Earther," growled the bartender, a six-armed Vargonian whose three eyes never seemed to blink simultaneously. Cale flipped a credit chip onto the sticky counter. "Keep 'em coming until I forget which system I'm in." He scanned the room, cataloging the usual suspects. Mercenaries comparing weapon mods in the corner, cargo haulers arguing over route efficiency, and the occasional corporate spy pretending not to be a corporate spy. His attention locked onto a newcomer, a violet-skinned alien with eyes shaped like cucumbers, weaving unsteadily between tables. The alien's expensive robes were stained with at least three different colored liquids. As Cale watched, the stranger bumped into a table of Kronthian miners, spilling their drinks. "Watch where you're stumbling, purple man," one miner snarled, rising to his feet. The violet alien straightened his posture, attempting dignity. "Do you have any idea who I am? I am Baron Zulgar of the Imperial Houses, 37th in line to the—" A meaty fist cut off the rest of his lineage. Cale winced as Baron Zulgar crashed into a nearby table. The miners closed in, and Cale's better judgment took a vacation. "Hey!" Cale shouted, standing. "That's my business partner you're pummeling." The miners turned. Cale flashed his most convincing smile while reaching for the modified stunner strapped beneath his jacket. "We were just discussing cargo transport rates," Cale continued, casually positioning himself between the miners and the dazed Baron. "Very boring. Lots of numbers. How about I buy you gentlemen around instead?" 5 minutes and 20 credits later, the miners returned to their table, and Cale helped Baron Zulgar into a chair. "Didn't need your help," Zulgar slurred, adjusting what appeared to be a ceremonial circlet that had tilted sideways on his bulbous head. "Sure looked like it," Cale signaled the bartender. "What are you drinking?" "Bubbles. Need more bubbles." The Baron's cucumber eyes swiveled independently, eventually focusing on Cale. "You're an Earther." "Last I checked." Cale knocked back his drink. "Earthers can hold their liquor. Something about your primitive metabolism." Zulgar leaned forward, his breath smelling like fermented fruit and chemicals. "Care to test that theory?" Cale should have walked away. His ship needed repairs, he had a delivery deadline, and this alien screamed complication. Instead, he grinned. "What's the wager?" "Credits," Zulgar waved dismissively, then patted his robes. "Or, I seem to be temporarily without access to my accounts." "Convenient. I have something better." The Baron produced an ornate metallic capsule from inside his robes. The cylinder gleamed under the bar lights, covered in intricate etchings and tiny glowing crystals. "What's that supposed to be?" Cale asked, curiosity piqued despite himself. "Empirical guardianship capsule." Zulgar's voice dropped to a whisper. "Worth more than this entire backwater station? Take it or leave it, Earther. I need more bubbles." Cale picked up the capsule, turning it in his hands. It hummed faintly, warm to the touch. Something about it screamed, "Terrible idea," but terrible ideas were Cale's specialty. "Fine, let's see what you got." He caught the bartender's eye. 2 Neptunian whiskeys, the real stuff, not the synthetic garbage. The contest began simply enough. One drink, then another. By the 5th round, a crowd had gathered. By the 8th, they were downing concoctions that technically qualified as controlled substances in 17 systems. "Your species lacks," Zulgar swayed, struggling to form words, "lacks appreciation for the finer points of genetic superiority?" Says the guy who can barely stay on his stool. Cale's vision had doubled, but years of black market liver mods kept him functional. He raised his glass, a toxic green liquid that smoked ominously. "Bottoms up, your baronship." Zulgar attempted to match him, got halfway through, then pitched forward face first into a puddle of blue liquor on the table. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cale rose unsteadily, bowing to his audience and pocketed the capsule. Someone roll His Highness into a recovery position. The capsule pulsed against his hand. A small interface projected outward. A contract glowing in at least 17 languages, most of which Kale couldn't read even when sober. Just need your thumbprint, Zulgar mumbled from the puddle, one eye swiveling upward. Formality. Kale pressed his thumb against the glowing interface. The languages scrolled past at dizzying speed. Guardianship transferred, announced the capsule in a pleasant feminine voice before going dormant. What's that mean? Kale asked, but Zulgar had passed out completely. Kale shrugged. He'd won something, which was better than most nights ended. He pocketed the capsule and staggered toward the docking bay where his ship waited. The Gravy Train, a name that had seemed clever after his third whiskey 5 years ago. The next morning arrived with all the gentleness of a supernova. Kale groaned as his ship's proximity alarm shrieked, each electronic wail feeling like a nail driven through his skull. Ship, shut up, he croaked, rolling onto his side in the cramped sleeping quarters. Proximity alert. Security override in progress, the ship's AI responded, somehow managing to sound both monotone and judgmental. Kale fumbled for the blaster he kept beside his bunk. What do you mean, override? The main hatch hissed open. Kale squinted through his hangover as 3 figures stepped aboard. 3 female figures with violet skin and feline eyes, each distinctly different, yet somehow familiar. The tallest entered first, statuesque with military bearing, wearing a jumpsuit unzipped to reveal an impressive amount of purple cleavage. Her eyes, golden with vertical pupils, surveyed the ship with tactical precision. Daddy, she announced, her formal tone contrasting with the intimate term. I am Trisha, combat specialist and primary protector for our new arrangement. Before Kale could process this introduction, a second female stepped forward, adjusting her glasses with one hand while holding some kind of scanner in the other. She was slimmer than the first, with intricate tattoos visible on her forearms and a practical jumpsuit covered in pockets and tools. The atmospheric composition is within acceptable parameters, though primitive, she said, turning her scanner toward Kale. Fascinating how humans function with such inefficient technology. She began examining the ship's control panels, occasionally casting sidelong glances his way that were anything but daughterly. The third bounded into the ship, smaller than the others, but moving with feline grace. She wore what appeared to be the alien equivalent of lingerie, her violet skin adorned with glittering body jewels. Without hesitation, she jumped onto Kale's bed. Is this where we sleep, Daddy? It smells like you. She rolled around in his sheets, purring audibly as she inhaled. I'm Maya. I'm the fun one. Her tone made it clear that fun had very specific connotations. Kale clutched his blanket to his chest, brain struggling to catch up. Who? What? How did you get on my ship? Trisha straightened her already perfect posture, the movement accentuating her curves. The guardianship capsule authorized our entry. As your new companions, we naturally have full access to your domicile and possessions. My what? Kale's hand went to his jacket, still draped over a chair, and found the capsule from last night. This thing? Look, there's been a mistake. I won this in a drinking contest with some Baron Zulgar, the one with glasses supplied, still scanning his equipment while giving him an appraising look. Our previous guardian, I'm Leary by the way, technical specialist and problem solver. She winked at the last part. Previous guardian? Kale's hangover pounded in time with his heartbeat. Listen, I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not anybody's, whatever you think I am. Maya giggled, now wrapped in his blanket. Of course you are, silly. You activated the capsule. The contract is binding across 16 galaxies and 3-dimensional planes. She stretched languidly, the blanket slipping to reveal more violet skin. We're yours now, Daddy. The capsule in Kale's hand suddenly activated, projecting a holographic figure, a bureaucratic-looking alien in what appeared to be formal attire. Greetings, Guardian Kale Jetson, the hologram intoned. Congratulations on becoming paternal guardian of the noble house of Zulgar. Your legal rights and responsibilities now include, but are not limited to, protection, sustenance, education, and eventual bonding approval for the house companions. There's been a mistake, Kale protested, his mouth dry. I didn't agree to any of this. Your biometric signature indicates full consent, the hologram continued pleasantly. Please be advised that contract revocation requires approval from the Imperial Bureaucracy of Family Affairs, with offices located in the Andromeda Galaxy, approximately 2.5 million light-years away. Current processing time for revocation applications is 43 standard years. The hologram flickered out. Kale stared at the empty space where it had been, then at the three violet females examining his ship, his life, as if they already owned it. This can't be legal, he muttered. Where's Zulgar? I need to find him and sort this out. Trisha crossed her arms, the motion pushing her chest upward. Baron Zulgar's whereabouts are no longer your concern, Daddy. Your duty is to us now. The way she said duty carried unmistakable implications. Stop calling me that. Kale stumbled out of bed, realizing too late he was wearing only underwear. Maya whistled appreciatively, her eyes roaming his body without a hint of filial respect. He grabbed a pair of pants from the floor, hopping awkwardly as he pulled them on. I'm finding Zulgar and fixing this. 6 hours later, Kale stood at the luxury departure terminal, watching the contrail of a first-class transport fade into Blood Spiral's toxic atmosphere. According to the board terminal agent, Baron Zulgar had departed for the pleasure moons of Jupiter just after dawn, leaving no contact information. He had, however, left a message for Kale. A small holographic disc played Zulgar's image, looking considerably more sober and substantially more smug than the night before. Greetings, new guardian. Thanks for taking them off my hands. The genetic harvesters were closing in, and, well, a noble must make sacrifices. They're good girls, mostly. Don't let them near any fertility temples. The Baron's cucumber eyes shifted nervously. The eldest is trained in 17 forms of combat, the middle one can hack anything with a circuit, and the youngest, just keep her fed. Oh, and if anyone asks, you've never heard of me, enjoy your new companions. The message ended. Kale played it twice more before the reality sank in. He'd been conned, hustled by a drunken alien who'd seemed like an easy mark. Somehow he'd ended up the mark instead. When he returned to the gravy train, things had only gotten worse. Trisha had established a defensive perimeter around the ship, complete with what looked suspiciously like anti-personnel mines. Leary had dismantled his navigation system and was rebuilding it with parts he didn't recognize. And Maya had rearranged his sleeping quarters into what she called a love nest, which seemed to involve a lot of cushions and even less personal space than before. You can't just take over my ship, Kale protested, stepping over a tripwire Trisha had installed in the corridor. I've improved your security protocols, Trisha replied, not looking up from calibrating something that definitely violated station weapons regulations. She glanced up, her golden eyes smoldering. Nothing's too good for my daddy's protection. I've enhanced your propulsion efficiency by 37%, Leary interrupted, her head inside an access panel. Her position offered Kale an enticing view that he tried not to notice. Though I had to bypass some of your more primitive components. This wiring is fascinating, so crude yet somehow effective. She looked back at him, adjusting her glasses in a way that somehow came across as flirtatious. I bet you're effective with crude tools too, aren't you, Daddy? Get out of there before you... Daddy, I'm hungry! Maya appeared from the galley, chewing on something that Kale was fairly certain had been a critical part of the life support system. She sidled up to him, pressing her body against his side. This tastes funny. I know something that would taste much better. Kale took a deep breath, counted to 10 in 3 languages, and failed to calm down. Everyone stop what you're doing. This is my ship, and I make the rules here. Rule 1, I'm not your daddy in any sense of the word. Rule 2, don't touch anything without asking. Rule 3, the ship's alarm system cut him off, blaring at a volume that made his hangover resurge with a vengeance. Trisha moved with startling speed, checking a scanner on her wrist. Her playful demeanor vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. Corporate vessel entering station airspace. They're scanning for genetic anomalies consistent with the Zulgar lineage. What does that mean? Kale demanded. Leary emerged from the access panel, face grim. It means the harvesters have found us. They track Imperial companions for their genetic material. Genetic material? What are you talking about? Trisha's jumpsuit reconfigured, sections hardening into armor as hidden weapons emerge from concealed compartments. No time to explain. We must protect our daddy. I'm not your daddy, Kale shouted, frustration boiling over. I'm just a guy who wanted a drink. Too late, Daddy, Maya giggled, suddenly at the ship's controls. She flipped switches with surprising competence for someone who'd been chewing on hardware a minute ago. You're ours now. The possessive way she said it made it clear this was no parent-child relationship. The engines roared to life under Leary's command, bypassing station departure protocols. Through the viewport, Kale spotted a massive vessel breaking station orbit, sleek, black, and unmistakably corporate, with weapon ports opening along its hull. They're launching pursuit drones, Trisha announced, strapping herself into the gunner's position. Calculating intercept trajectories. The gravy train lurched, breaking free from its docking clamps with a screech of tearing metal. Kale stumbled into the pilot's seat as artificial gravity fluctuated. This is insane, he protested, even as his hands moved automatically over the controls, muscle memory kicking in. We can't outrun a corporate cruiser in this rust bucket. Not with that attitude, Daddy, Trisha replied, targeting systems glowing beneath her fingers, as she gave him a look that suggested